Hello and welcome to Into the 99 Deck Tech. I am one of your hosts, Brian, and today we'll be going over one of my favorite commanders. Today we'll be talking as Xyris, the Writhing Storm. So first off, let's get into what Xyris does. Xyris the Writhing Storm costs 2 colorless, a green, a blue, and a red. He is a legendary creature, Snake Leviathan, has flying, and whenever an opponent draws a card except for the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, create a 1/1 green snake creature token. And also, whenever Xyris the Writhing Storm deals combat damage to a player, you and that player each draw that many cards. So you can build this deck in so many different ways. For this deck tech, it's kind of like a group hug where I try to encourage the draws. So first off, let's get into what the goals of the deck are. We want to ramp to get ahead of our opponents, enable the card draw, hit our payoff cards, and then how can we protect everything that we've built? So first off, we're gonna start talking about ramp cards. And what's a green deck without Land of War, Elvish Mystic, and Birds of Paradise? These are cheap one-costing creatures that we can get out and help us get the advantage or get ahead of our opponents. Next up, we have Bloom Tender, which is 1 and a green, and it will tap for each color among permanents you control. Add 1 mana of that color to your mana pool. So hopefully we can get 3 extra mana out of this guy. We're gonna run Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, and Izzet Locket. So again, these other artifacts that are gonna really help us burst out of the gate and to start being able to cast some of the bigger spells that we have. We also run the Ketria Crystal, which came out in Ikoria, Lair of the Behemoths. It costs 3, and it will tap for 1 of each of the colors that we need, which is blue, green, and red. And then for our spells, we have Farseek and Cultivate. Farseek costs 1 colorless and a green, and it allows us to search for keywords such as plains, islands, swamps, and mountains. So we can go and fetch our tap lands or our shock lands, so we can actually fish those out of the deck. Cultivate costs 2 and a green, it's a sorcery, and search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards and put them onto the battlefield tapped, and the other into your hand, and then shuffle your library. Since we're making so many tokens, it would be we have to run the altars. So we have Ashnod's and Phyrexian Altar. Ashnod costs 3, and we can sacrifice a creature to add 2 colorless to our mana pool. And Phyrexian, again, costs 3, and we can sacrifice, and we can add 1 mana of any color to our mana pool. So that really helps us color fix if we need to from creating all the snakes. Lastly, Azusa, Lost But Seeking, 2 and a green, and she allows us to play 2 additional lands on each of our turns. Really just helps us dump our lands and start getting ahead in the game. Next, we're going to be discussing card draw. This is where Xyris is really in his element. So first off, Howling Maw, it costs 2 colorless, and at the beginning of each player's draw step, if Howling Maw is untapped, that player draws an additional card. So we want to encourage the draw. Our opponents might draw some removals, spells, but we can still deal with it. We're making enough snakes if we can protect Xyris. Next up is Font of Mythos, costs 4, and at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws 2 additional cards. So on top of their first card, that's 2 snakes on each turn. So 4-person game, we're coming around to our turn with 6 snakes. Temple Bell, that costs 3, and it's an artifact, and you're able to tap it, and it causes each player to draw a card. And then Rites of Flourishing costs 2 and a green, and at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card, and each player may play an additional land on each of his or her turns. Again, it's going to help us get the ramp out, and it's going to help us get the snakes. We have Kami of the Crescent Moon, which costs 2 blue. Legendary Creature Spirit, and at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. You can really see what we're going for here. Folio of Fancies costs 2 and a blue, or sorry, 1 and a blue, and players have no maximum hand size. That's going to help us out because we're drawing so many cards, as well as the other players. it's again, we're going for a group hug feel. Maybe they won't blow up our stuff since we're helping them out here. You can pay X and X and tap it, and each player draws X cards. So we can, if we have nothing else to do, we could dump our mana into this, and we can at least make some snakes to try to just get some more advantage. And then we can also 2 and a blue, tap it, and each opponent puts a number of cards equal to the number of cards in their hand from the top of their library into their graveyard. So if we really want to mill, we can try milling. Lastly is Dictate of Crufix. 1 and 2 blue, it's an enchantment with flash, and at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. Now we're going to be discussing wheeling. What are we able to do to get rid of answers that we might know are in our opponent's hand, and also just make us so many snakes. First up, we have Korvath's Fury, which costs 4 and a red. It comes from Battle Bond, and it's a sorcery. For each player, choose a friend or foe. Each friend discards all cards from their hand and then draws that many cards plus 1. And then Korvath's Fury deals damage to each foe equal to the number of cards in their hand. So if we want to do some damage, we can, but more than likely we're going to be causing everyone to wheel their hand and just again get so many snakes. Next we have Jace's Archivist, which is a creature, costs 1 and 2 blue, and it's a Vedalken Wizard. You can pay 1 blue and tap it, and each player discards his or her hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way. Get rid of a lot of answers or a lot of cards that people might want to play, and then we just make a lot of snakes. Next up, we have Windfall. Windfall costs 2 and a blue, sorcery. Each player discards their hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way. A lot of these cards, the same thing. What we're trying to do is just get rid of their hand over and over again, so we're able to just profit off of making a lot of snakes. So hopefully we can get some attacks in, or we can use them on the altars to make more mana to again just play out our hand to draw more cards and so on and so forth. Wheel and Deal, blue card, 3 and a blue, and it's an instant, and any number of target opponents each discards his or her hand and draw 7 cards, and then I may draw a card. It doesn't affect us, which is nice, so if we do have cards that we want to keep in our hand, we don't have to worry about losing anything. This is by far one of my favorite cards, Teferi's Puzzle Box. It's 4 colorless. During each player's draw phase, that player counts the cards in his or her hand, puts those cards onto the bottom of his or her library, and then draws that many cards. So when a person's turn comes, they draw a card, they will then put them on the bottom of their library and then draw that many cards. If you have Wheel of Fortune already, I highly recommend putting it in this deck. If not, you can not use this one, and you can either put in some more removal or some more draw spells. So Wheel of Fortune is 2 and a red. Both players must discard their hand and draw 7 new cards. And now we're moving on to our protection. How are we going to be able to protect Xyris and all of our snakes and any other creatures that we get on the board, such as Jace's Archivist? So this came, Fierce Guardianship, costs 2 and a blue. This came out of the new Commander series. It's an instant, and if you control a commander, you may cast the spell without paying its mana cost. So it's a free counter target non-creature spell if we have our commander out. If not, 3 CMC for counter spells, not bad at all. Deflecting Swat, again from one of the other commander decks. 2 and a red. If we control our commander, it's free. And for the spell, you may choose new targets for you may choose new targets for target spell or ability. So we can redirect an ability or a player spell. Really comes in handy when we need to protect our things. Counter spell, because why not? We're going to have the mana. We just need those protection. Heroic Intervention, luckily this thing got reprinted again, costs 1 and a green, and permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Just really good at protecting everything on our board. If someone tries to board wipe or target something of importance on our board. Pongify, if we have a pesky creature that's getting in and attacking us, we can easily remove it, or, well, we're going to be creating them in a green ape anyways, but cost 1 blue, instant, and destroy a target creature. It can't be regenerated. Its controller creates a 3/3 green ape creature token. Crows and Grip. There's always going to be pesky artifacts or enchantments. This one has split second, 2 and a green, instant split second. So as long as the spell is on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. So we're able to stop the stack. If they want to respond to something, they have to respond to something earlier in the stack. And here we can destroy target artifact or enchantment. Beast Within costs 2 and a green. It's an instant, and again, just like Pongify, we're going to destroy target permanent. Well, this time it's not a creature. We can destroy anything. Its controller creates a 3/3 green beast creature token. Cyclonic Rift, because why not? We love to annoy Daniel. Cyclonic Rift is 1 and a blue, and return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand, or we can overload it for 7, 6 and a blue, and instead of a single thing, we bounce everything back to everyone's hands except for our stuff. So hopefully we can get our snakes in and we can do some damage. What are going to be our payoff cards? So our payoff cards are Impact Tremors. 1 and a red, and it's an enchantment. And whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Impact Tremors deals 1 damage to each opponent. If we're creating snakes every turn and our opponents are not able to deal with it, we're going to be doing at least 3 to 4 damage per turn unless we're wheeling and causing everyone. So say 3 opponents, 7 cards each, drawing another 7 cards, that's 21 snakes. So that will be 21 damage to each opponent. That's half their life. Again, Perforos, God of the Forge, 3 and a red. This time it's a legendary enchantment creature god with indestructible. They're going to have to waste good removal, such as exiles, but that's if Perforos becomes a creature. So as long as my devotion to red is less than 5, Perforos isn't a creature, it's just an enchantment. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Perforos deals 2 damage to each opponent. And if we really want to, we can really spice things up and pay 2 and a red, and creatures you control get +1/+0. If we're swinging with, say, 20 snakes and we want to boost them, let's go right ahead and do it. Next up, Goblin Bombardment, 1 and a red. It's another enchantment. We can sacrifice a creature, and Goblin Bombardment deals 1 damage to target creature or player. So we can sack our snakes to strategically remove something on other players' boards, or if there's a troublesome player, we can just get rid of them. What's better than player removal? And then maybe we want to keep our snakes. We have Eldrazi's Monument, which costs 5 colorless. Artifact, and creatures you control get +1/+1 and have flying and indestructible. And at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. If you can't, sacrifice Eldrazi's Monument. So all our snakes now are 2/2 with flying and indestructible. Let's get in and get some damage done. Thank you for listening to our video on Xyris the Writhing Storm. Please check all our other content out on our website, which is intothe99.com. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at intothe99 or intothe99 podcast. Please, if you do enjoy the video or our content, if you feel like supporting us, you can find us at Patreon at patreon.com/intothe99. Thank you for watching and have a great day.